Hey guys, this is Coach Lowe, and we're going to talk about Geometry 5-6 today, inequalities in two triangles. So we've talked about inequalities, we talked about inequalities in one triangle, and now we're going to talk about in two triangles. All right, so let's get going on this. All right, so there are two theorems. There's theorem 513 and 514, and they're actually the same theorem, just the converse actually. This is called the hinge theorem, and then it's converse. Make sure you get both of these in there. The hinge theorem says if you have two sides of a triangle that are congruent to two other sides of a triangle, and the included angle of the first triangle is larger than the included angle of the second triangle, then the sides, we can talk about the sides. The side of the first triangle is longer than the second. So it's kind of that whole sides opposite larger angles are larger, plus we're talking about two triangles instead of just one. So let me draw you a picture of that hinge theorem. I don't know if that's a very good picture. Let me just try again here. All right, so this is ABC, and this is FGH. And we are going to say that these two sides are congruent to each other and these two are congruent. Remember, it doesn't matter what they look like, whether you think they are or not. So this is 43 degrees and this is 35 degrees. All right, so I have side AB in triangle number 1 congruent to side FG in triangle number 2. I have side AC in triangle number 1 congruent to side FH in triangle number 2, and I have the angle between those two sides, the included angle. It has to be the included angle for this hinge theorem. So we could not talk about B and C, it doesn't matter, or G and H doesn't matter. We can only talk about A and F because we're given sides AB and AC congruent to FG and FH. So we have to talk about angles A and F because they are between those two sides. All right, so here's the deal. If this angle, whichever angle is bigger, that opposite side is larger. So 43 is bigger than 35, so that tells me that side BC is larger than side BH because, GH, because angle A is larger than angle F. So angle A, the measure of angle A is larger. That looks really weird, doesn't it? Let me put M in front of it, and maybe that'll help. So the measure of angle A is larger than the measure of angle F. Therefore, the measure of side BC is longer than the measure of side GH. All right, hopefully that makes sense. All right, the converse is also true. So if you have two sides that are congruent to each other and this third side, so converse would be, we're talking about the sides instead of the angles, they tell you this third side is longer than this third side, then I know that this angle is bigger than that angle. So that's just the converse. Those are in your book. You can write those two theorems down. Make sure that those are in your notebook. Those are the hinge theorem. So inequalities in two triangles, and then talking about the hinge theorem and hinge theorem in theorems 13 and 14. All right, so let's compare these two guys. Go ahead and draw this triangle. That was my phone. Somebody must be calling to want to work some geometry. Maybe they're texting because they're having so much fun with this, right? Yeah, we all know that's true. Girl, you know it's true. Okay, sorry. All right, back to thinking about geometry here. All right, 70 degrees, 68 degrees here. And I'll tell you that AC is equal to CB. Now we said there had to be two sides in the included angle, so where's the other side? I have AC is congruent to CB, and if they give me these angles, where's my other side? Well, it has to be CD, it's congruent to itself. So I have triangle ACD and triangle CDB. AC is congruent to CB, CD is congruent to itself. We don't even really need to mark it, it's congruent to itself. All right, so I have the included angles. So what do I know about AD and DB? Well, AD is opposite the 70-degree angle, so I know that AD, the measure of side AD, I don't need to write measure, but I know that side AD is larger than side DB, no matter what the picture looks like, because this angle is bigger. Its side, the side opposite that angle, is larger. All right, it makes absolutely no difference what the picture looks like. So by the hinge theorem, we know that side AD is longer than side DB. All right, one more. Let's draw this guy right here. You can go ahead and sketch this with me. And this time I want you to pause the video and see if you can figure this one out without me. Well, of course you can, right? Duh. Okay, so this is A, B, C, D, and this is 5.5, and this is 5. And I'll go ahead and tell you that those two are equal to each other. All right, so see if you can figure anything out from this. Go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so the only, well, we could talk about several things, but let's talk about angle ABD and angle BDC. All right, now that I've told you those angles, if that helps you with that little hint, then you can pause the video and check it out. All right, so ABD and BDC. What do I know about those angles? They're not equal. I just marked them. Okay, so I'm not saying they're equal to each other. We're just checking those out. Let me just change my little thing here. So we're talking about ABD and BDC. All right. Well, I know the opposite side from ABD is 5, and I know the opposite side from BDC is 5.5. This side is larger, which means angle BDC is larger. The measure of angle BDC is larger than the measure of angle ABD. Because this side, BC, is larger than AD. Therefore, its angle opposite is larger. Now, were those included angles? So was this angle between sides that were congruent? Well, yes. These two sides are congruent to each other. These two sides were not, but this side is congruent to itself. So yes, I was talking about the angle that's in between two sides that were given congruent. Please make sure that you check that. That is a big deal. So if they give you sides that are not congruent to start with, you can just stop. All right? Okay, so let's see about one more here. All right. I think I said one more in the last one, but obviously I was kidding, right? You're used to that, so it's all good. All right, so let me give you some markups here. This is L, M, N, and D. And you can pause the video once I get this all marked up and draw it yourself if you would like to. 141 degrees. This side is 18. This angle right here is 9A plus 15 degrees. And this side is 16. So the question is, can you give me a range for angle A? Could you give me a range for angle A? All right, so let's think about that. I mean for A, not for angle A. Could you give me a range for what this letter would have to be here? Okay, so let's see if we can figure it out. All right, so I know this side is congruent to itself. I know these two sides are congruent, and so we're talking about this angle and this angle, which are the included angles here between those. This side is 18. This side is 16. So I do know that the measure of angle MDN has to be, thank you for doing that, but I did not ask you to do that. All right, the measure of angle MDN has to be greater than, has to be less than has to be less than the measure of angle LDM. I know that because this side is bigger than this side. So this angle measure will be smaller than this one. All right, well, we already know this angle measure, so let's go ahead and put that in there. So the measure of angle MDN, wait, we know that one too, don't we? It's an expression, but we know it. So let's go ahead and write that expression in. 9a plus 15 is less than 141 degrees. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this. Subtracting 15 from both sides, 9a is less than 126 degrees. So a is less than 14. All right, so a has to be smaller than 14. All right, good with that? Hopefully that makes sense. We'll also talk about what it has to be larger than, but we'll get to that. Well, maybe we should just go ahead and do that. It can't be 0, so it's going to have to be bigger than 0. So we can do that as well. So let's do 9a plus 15 has to be positive. So 9a has to be bigger than negative 15. A has to be larger than negative 15 over 9, or A has to be larger than negative 5/3. So A has to be between negative 5/3 and 14. So this is because we can't have a negative angle measure. So greater than 0 means positive number. And then this is because 9a plus 15, this angle was smaller than this one. So two different things going on here. Has to be a positive number, but also has to be smaller than 141 degrees. All right, guys, hope that made sense. If you have any questions, make sure you jot those down, and I'll talk to you about them next time I see you. This is Coach Lowe, and I'm out.